It all began on a rainy evening in New Jersey when I, a 50-year-old lonely woman, booked a late-night ride and met Zion, a 25-year-old Pakistani taxi driver whose quiet charm and intense eyes stirred something inside me I had buried for years. After a silent, rainy ride, I offered him water before he left, but the storm worsened, and I invited him in, just for a moment. Yet that moment turned into lingering eye contact, deep conversation, and an unspoken energy neither of us could ignore as the rain tapped gently on the windows while we sat in the warm hush of my home. Then, out of nowhere, he looked at me like I mattered and said, "You seem like someone who's been waiting to be seen." And with that, he leaned in, not forcefully, but carefully, and kissed me with such emotion. It shattered every wall I had built, and soon, one kiss turned into another, and we found ourselves tangled in a night of slow-burning passion, of fingers interlocked, whispers in the dark, and a connection that felt so real, so forbidden. It terrified me, and yet I let go. He made love to me like a man possessed by both tenderness and fire, awakening every part of me I thought time had stolen, and by morning, he had not only touched my body, but carved a space in my heart. But what shook me even more was his confession days later, that he had noticed me long before, watching me from his cab window, waiting for the right moment to speak, to connect, and after that, he kept coming back, not for money or favors, but because every night with me felt like home to him, and though the world might not understand our age, our timing, or how two broken hearts collided, we understood what we had, a love soaked in rain, sealed with kisses, and stitched together by the kind of passion and loyalty that defied explanation. And now, every time I whisper his name in the dark, he comes to me, not just as a man I once met in a taxi, but as the only one who ever made me feel alive again. Weeks passed since that unforgettable night, and Zion's visits became the only light in my otherwise silent life. He'd arrive after midnight, sometimes with soft pastries, sometimes just with that deep look that told me he needed no excuse to be near me. We would sit close, barely speaking, letting our eyes and touches say everything, and in those quiet hours, under dim lamps and soft blankets, we'd lose ourselves in the warmth of each other. His kisses slow, reverent, exploring the lines of my face like they were poetry, his arms around me as if he were afraid I'd vanish, and each night felt like we were writing a secret chapter no one else would ever read. But one evening, as I traced the scar on his shoulder, he whispered a truth that shook me. He had never truly felt love before me, that every woman he knew before was a transaction, a blur. But I was his piece. I wept in that moment, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming truth that I, a woman forgotten by time, was finally being seen, touched, and loved like a treasure. But then, the shock came. One late evening I waited, and he didn't arrive. No calls, no messages, and my heart raced with fear. I called hospitals, police stations, and finally found him unconscious in a hospital bed after a hit-and-run accident, bruised but breathing, and I sat beside him for hours, clutching his hand, whispering his name, promising him I'd never leave. And when he finally opened his eyes, barely able to speak, the first word he uttered was my name, Linda, like it was his only anchor to life. After he recovered, he moved in, not because he had nowhere else to go, but because we both knew we had already built a home within each other. And now, every night, when he lies beside me and pulls me into his chest, pressing his lips against my forehead and whispering, "I love you," I close my eyes and think that stormy night, that single ride, and that quiet stranger who gave me not just love, but life again, because sometimes destiny doesn't knock. It drives a taxi, gets caught in the rain, and stays forever. Months passed, and what began as a secret rain-soaked connection turned into something deeper than either of us expected. Zion had now become a part of my every breath, my every routine, cooking breakfast beside me, brushing my hair like it was sacred, and even helping me tend to the roses I'd long abandoned in the garden. Yet, despite all the tenderness, there was still fear in my heart. Fear that one day he might leave. Realize the difference in our worlds. our ages, our cultures, but every time I looked at him, he looked back with eyes that silenced every doubt. And one quiet evening, under the soft light of our porch where it had all started, he took my hands in his, placed something small and silver in my palm, and said, "In my country, we don't just wear rings for show. We wear them when we belong to someone forever." And my heart stopped as I saw the delicate band he had brought from Pakistan, engraved with his mother's name on one side and mine on the other. With tears running down my cheeks, I slipped it on, knowing this wasn't just a love story anymore. It was a life story. That night, as we lay side by side, wrapped in sheets and the smell of jasmine drifting through the open windows, he kissed me like it was the last kiss on earth, slow and burning, touching my face as if I was the only woman he had ever known, and I held him tighter than ever, whispering how he had given me back a life I didn't know I was missing. We made love that night, not with urgency, but with gratitude, and when morning light broke across his peaceful face, I knew this was the end of my loneliness, the end of that chapter where I was simply a woman in waiting, because now I was a woman deeply loved, and Zion, the young man who once drove me through the rain, had driven straight into my heart and made it his home forever.